it again. Fulham needed a goal scorer. It seems like they found one.
Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, After Dark edition. And we'll go into a bit more detail there. Be your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. Why is it After Dark? Well, that's because it's normally hosted in sunny Perth, Australia, but they're now sleeping. So it is After Dark for them. It's still dark for us, but still. Hey, ho. So, because the Australians are all asleep, we can get away with anything. They're feeling a little bit mischievous. We can talk about David Warner crying. We can talk about koalas being the worst marsupials. Anything goes tonight. Anyway, we're all here today to talk about, well, it's actually a bit of a different one. So we've got the Manchester United preview. So we've got that game coming up on Sunday. And we also have special guests of Fulham Transfer on X, but Fulham Fan News, who are going to come in and talk to us. That's Kieran and Joe, who are going to talk to us about a little bit about themselves, talk about a bit of the transfer window, because obviously that's hotting up a little bit, and also try and get some just thoughts of theirs around all things Fulham, really. But I can't do this all on my own. So joining me tonight, and I've already seen he was on the dark beer as well for the After Dark, it is Dave at Crave. How are we doing, Dave?
Oh, I'm doing very well. I'm very excited for the new show. And listen, listeners, this is not just, some sort of wild coup for Skibby and I to try and, take over from the Berenze family. Not at all. We're just trialing out a new time slot and also just giving the viewers what they want. Mary bloody Townsend. Southgate! I said Townsend! Oh no! Southgate. We're giving them very Southgate. It's not Mary Southgate in disguise. It actually is Mary Southgate. She's here with us today. And yes, we're very excited about that. And I'm very excited about Fulham Fan News as well, because I thought that was one person, not three. So
absolutely,
that's going to be really interesting to see. So I'm very excited, and as you can tell, and looking forward to the show.
Brilliant. Well, you beat me to it. Mary Townsend Southgate's here, so welcome in, Mary.
The name develops again.
It does.
You know what? I was going to do a massive, still undefeated, because we can't lose when Mary's on a pod. So we had to. This is where this is the actual story of where this show came from. We just said we need to get Mary on the pod. Fulham don't lose when Mary's on the pod. But she can't fit the normal time slot, so we're going to make it a show all around Mary. So, Mary, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much. It's good to be back. Hopefully we go back to winning ways. I mean, we did last game anyway, but hopefully we can push on, and the After Dark is the start of a new winning campaign.
Absolutely.
But it's good to be back.
Oh, I'm looking forward to any kind of After Dark, anything, merch. Oh, I think the possibilities are endless there. But we've definitely struck gold. But I've already seen Colm is in, so welcome in, Colm. And Steve Reynolds. That's it. Fulham win on Sunday. Mary's in the house. Exactly. That's exactly what kind of vibes we want to bring. But first and foremost, we have a Discord. Join the Discord. Fulham Transfer really... that's kind of how we got to know them, but they're very active in there, giving us all the news, especially in January transfer window. But there's also a lot of fantastic people in the community, so please come and join us and talk all things Fulham. And if you don't want to talk about Fulham, there's other things you can talk about, so come and have a look, see what it's like. Blue Sky, X, you know where we are. But let's get into it. Oh, Manchester United at home on Sunday. It's a game that used to... And this is me as a 90s, 2000s baby. One, kind of get you excited about because you'd be seeing all the absolute stars. But two, also be really bloody nervous about because they absolutely rinsed us. I'm talking like the Andy Cole, the Ruud van Nistelrooy days, Becks, Ronaldo, all of that. But they don't really strike the same kind of fear anymore, Dave, do they?
No, they don't, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, they have been, a bit of a basket case the last... few years, and particularly this season have obviously gone through a manager change, and the results are just nuts. They can take points of Liverpool and City, but against teams further down the table, they just look all over the place. So gives us a real chance, doesn't it, on Sunday? I don't know about you, but I'm feeling confident. I think it's time that, all of those performances we've had against Man United where we dominated, the play and lost in the last minute, or we had that whole debacle in the FA Cup a couple of years ago. But God, it feels like it's time.
Oh, don't even remind me about the FA Cup. That was probably one of the worst away days I've ever done. And no word of a lie, after the game, or probably not even after the game, from about the 70th to 72nd minute where it all went wrong, I was silent, my dad was silent. Walking back from the game to the hotel, it was silent. The entire drive home the morning after was silent. I just couldn't believe what happened. But the less we dwell on that, the better. But, I mean, Mary, there's a thing about this Man United team where we think that they've turned a corner. And Diallo starts playing well, and and Højlund starts, matching what they paid for him. And you think, okay, maybe they're on the up now. And it just doesn't seem to click, does it?
No, it's not. And I think the Man United players know it as well. I mean, the fans definitely know it. But I think they must be low on confidence, which we've got to absolutely capitalise on. We know they've said that the worst Man United team in the Man United history. But then I think we've got to be careful with that, because is it a bit of a psychological game saying that? We've got to make sure we don't relax too much. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a season where we're doing lots of big things. We're beating Brentford in the last few minutes. We're beating Chelsea away. We're going and getting a draw against Liverpool. We're doing well, apart from West Ham in the London derbies. We're smashing it this season with loads of big results, big goals, good vibes. So I'm fancying this one to be another one.
But like you say, we struggle against the poor sides. Do Man United fall into that poor side category, Dave?
Yeah, well, I think, given they've just come off a home defeat to Brighton, and, we've seen their results recently. They've been all over the gaff. And, I feel like if any team that scores first against them has got a real good chance, because they just seem to crumble. So I think that's the opportunity, and we have to start strong. But yeah, I think they're not the giant they once were. We certainly don't fear the game like we once did. Obviously, there's this skepticism that we all feel because of results that have gone against us in recent years. But actually, if you look at it without looking too far back, this is a real opportunity for a side that's above them in the league to take them on at home. And as I say, given the inconsistencies of their performances, if we start strong, big opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. And I think when you look at the season so far, there is 7 points separating these two teams, and it actually works in Fulham's favour, which is quite surprising. If you told us that at the beginning of the season, you thought Man United were kind of bad, but you didn't think they would be that bad, that we were sort of a very good gap against us, or between us. But and yeah, like you say, the results previously, Brighton 3-1 at home as well is not a good result. The Southampton game was a 3-1 win, but it wasn't convincing. I mean, I think they got to around the 82nd minute or so before Diallo just turned it on. And I mean, he's a talent. I mean, he's probably one that we'll talk about in a bit as a bit of a threat. But and then they lost to Newcastle as well. I mean, Newcastle, again, it's another home defeat for them. And that is something that you just don't see from a Man United of old. Old Trafford used to be a really scary place to go. Could never, get a result. But here they are just dropping points left, right and centre. But I mean, the stats don't add up. So if you look at Fulham, we've only just won one game in our last 18 Premier League games against Man United. And the only win was that 2-1 win last season at Old Trafford. So even at home, we've drawn 3, lost 14. So obviously that doesn't include I think there was sort of, during the Roy Hodgson era, we had a nice sort of 2-0, 3-0. So it's still kind of like a bogey sort of fixture for us. But, we go back to last season. I believe it was last season, wasn't it? Where we were kind of all over them at home. And then out of nowhere, Bruno Fernandes pops up, scores a goal, breaks our hearts, and they walk away 1-0 wins. And it's just one of those things where it's something that Fulham haven't learned from, is it? That, we seem to knock on the door, and then concede late on. Is that something that we're just sort of not even learning from, given that the fact that was something that happened last season, Dave?
Yeah, it's not just last season. It happened the year before as well. Garnacho scored in the last minute too, and we were the better team that day as well. So, yeah, it's kind of, it's become a little bit of a pattern there, which is a bit concerning. But, it is, typical Fulham, if we outplay the side and then concede a sloppy goal at the end, that's happened a few times this season. That's why I think it's just really important that we, take our chances earlier on. And I think that's the opportunity. We've got to get ahead early, because I think the longer the game goes on 0-0, the more chance there is of Man United sneaking something.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I mean, thinking about lineups going into this, Mary, we've obviously welcomed Berger back, an absolute solid midfielder. It's a game that's unfortunately come just too soon for Nelson. He was back in training today. But I think it's only Tete and Nelson that are out, so we've got a full squad almost to sort of choose from. Do you see any big changes ahead of the game, based on the sort of last outing to Leicester? Who makes your 11?
To be honest, I'm keeping it the same. I know there's people will say about Muniz still trying to step in and seeing if he can get on the starting 11, but personally, I think it will be the same. If we think Berger and Lukic, great partnership. We know that Berger's everyone's been buzzing to have him back. I think he didn't get player of the match in the last game from the Fulham fans, and I mean that says it all. I think his passing was 95% accuracy, and that's exactly what we want. Especially against United, I think they're going to want to try and press us. But if we can, I think if we have the same lineup, we've got Berger, we've got Lukic. I can see Smith Rowe starting again, especially after his goal. I think he was brave with that one. So I think he deserves to start. I think he's got a bit more freedom when we have the Berger Lukic pairing. I think he deserves to keep playing. And actually, I was looking at it earlier. I think the games that Berger didn't play is the games we've conceded 2 or more goals in. And I found that really interesting. I think the Wolves game, he didn't play in. We obviously don't want to talk about that one, but 4-1. Other than Liverpool, I think all the other ones that we conceded was when he was out in the last 5 games. And I think that speaks volumes as well. I know some of the goals were silly mistakes, especially West Ham. But yeah, I think he absolutely is massive. But I think he allows Smith Rowe to have a lot more freedom up there.
And I think it's easier.
So yeah, for me, it's the same.
Yeah, it's easier for him, isn't it, when you've almost got that confidence, but with that sort of central defensive midfield partnership behind you, that you don't have to track as much, you don't have to work as hard defensively, which is probably one of the lesser abilities of his game. But I mean, you're quite right. Berger, I think he was first in duels, tackles, and like you say, his passing was unbelievable. So, I mean, Dave, do you agree with that? I mean, I know you're kind of itching to put Pereira in, but I'm sure you'll.
No. Listen, Mary Townsend Southgate makes a great point there. I think, it's. I think Marco will stick with the same team. Sorry, Mary. Again, sorry, Mary. Yeah, I think he will stick with the same team. I think that, but personally, I think there are some potential changes. You look at the back. I don't think he'll change the back, but there will be a lot of
back 5, surely.
No, but I think there'll be clamour for Diop to come in over Anderson. I think there's still some people that are, kind of not seeing the best of Anderson. And I'm one of them. I think he's not quite, since his injury, heights that he was hitting pre-injury, and Diop was kind of very harshly dropped. But I just don't think Marco will change a defence that's kept a clean sheet. So, I can understand why people would make that point, but I'm not quite sure that would be the case. I think for me, if it was me picking the team, which you'll all be glad it isn't, I think I would be tempted to make a couple of little tweaks, just to bring in a couple of players I think could make an impact. So, for instance, I think the pace of Adama could be quite effective from the start in this game. And, as well as Harry Wilson's been playing, it almost seems crazy to drop him. I kind of think that there's a real opportunity to get Adama running at their kind of wide centre backs, whether he's on the left or the right. Especially, I was watching the Southampton Man United game last week, and the left winger for Southampton was having, he was rapid, quick, but he was causing them all sorts of problems. And I just thought Adama could really step into that role. The other thing as well, I think that Raul's done nothing wrong. He's banging those penalties in, and his all-round play's been pretty good. But I just wonder, against three physical centre halves like Man United have got, whether Muniz is a better fit, for this particular game. Because he's got the strength to, battle Maguire and battle Euro and the likes in the Man United defence more than perhaps Raul can. So, I'd be interesting to see if Marco, decides to do something a bit different. So, yeah, I mean, gut feel it will be the same lineup, but those are the potential changes that I think he could make.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a physical Muniz might get dominated, unfortunately, against sort of three centre-backs. And the reason I say that is because what we see with Smith Rowe is he likes to sort of sit wide and doesn't sort of take and occupy a centre-back. Therefore, if Muniz is then having to battle Maguire, I think is De Ligt still fit? And I think Euro was the other one. So I think he could struggle physically. But what I think would work quite effective is Raul's ability to drop deep, pick up the ball, and get the runners in behind. So that would drag the centre backs out of position. And I mean, I don't care what anyone says. That Euro is a ticking time bomb. And I think you're quite right. If you get Adama against him, he's going to have a torrid time, because I think he struggled against Brighton. I think he almost got sent off. He kicked out at someone, lashed out, and I do think that he's not, one, getting used to the pace of the Premier League, but two, also the physicality piece. So if you had someone with the physicality and the pace, he's going to have a really tough time. But I think we talked about kind of what we would do and how we would line up in this game. I mean, Mary, is there any really key threats that you see from Man United who you think we need to keep an eye on?
I think, I wouldn't say it's a threat, but I think they'll want to try and keep some possession. I think they're obviously playing back three, which I think they want to try and be attacking with. I think they see it in like an attacking way like we did when Marco was playing it, although I'm glad we're not playing it now. But yeah, I'm going to be really positive about it. I don't feel threatened by this Man United side at all. I think we can get a lot of success, like you just said, about if Raul drops in, which we know he does quite a lot, there will be those gaps in behind. And I think that's where Smith Rowe can try and run into. I think, was it the Brighton's first goal where they scored because the centre-back of Man United, they dropped in too much. They followed it. They didn't time it well. And so we need to make their centre-backs make decisions like that and pull them out. And if Raul can do that, I know I'm now talking about us being threatening, but I think that we will be threatening like that. If we can pull them apart a little bit, make their centre-backs be a bit more, make decisions, I think we'll be able to find gaps in, whether it's Traore, Wilson, Iwobi, Smith Rowe. I think if we can slot balls in there, then we'll be the threatening ones. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not too worried about them. I think they'll try and press us. I think they'll try and keep possession. But whether they'll be doing anything with it is another story.
Depleted confidence does sort of change the story. I mean, on paper they've got fantastic talents, but like you say, if you haven't bought into the manager's tactical ideology, or you're low on confidence and you're not fancying it, it's not going to work. Dave, I mean, do you have any sort of threats that you think he's going to hurt us?
Look, they've got loads of quality players. The thing is, we're a better team than them. As a unit, as an organised unit, we're a better side than them. But individually, I have an interesting question for you guys, actually. I don't think there's many of our players, unfortunately, that would get into, their team, other than maybe Robinson on the left. It's very difficult to see, player for player who you'd replace. So
Leno.
Maybe Leno, for Nani.
That is woeful.
Yeah, that's a fair shout. But what I guess
third goal against Brighton.
Crazy. And just as he looked like he'd turned a corner as well and looked to start to be a little bit more secure, he has a game like that. And, that's great because the timing's perfect for us to take advantage of it. But yeah, I just think that, they've got quality. Fernandez is an unbelievable player and he's a massive threat. And we need to make sure we win that midfield battle against him. I think Diallo is a huge threat in behind. And I think the battle between kind of him, Robinson, and Bassi, I think, will be really interesting because, he will likely play from that right-hand side. And Fernandez will be more on the left, I would have thought. Look, everywhere you look, there's a threat in terms of, individuals. But as a team, I don't think they're, set up well enough and the managers had enough time to really make sure that they are able to kind of get the best out of all those players on a consistent basis.
No, you're quite right. I'm trying to think now if there was someone that I would take from Man United to put in our team. I don't think there would be. Bruno Fernandes is great, but he just annoys me with his attitude. He's not a captain.
Yeah, he's not the right character, is he? Personality-wise, attitude.
If you had him as your captain, would you be okay with that? I've had this conversation with Man United fans, but I just don't think he's a good captain. He just seems to spend all his time complaining, rolling around, and just doesn't, for me, Maguire is still the leader of that team, but doesn't have the captaincy for it. To be honest, he's probably only one I'd probably take. I like Maguire. I've got a lot of time for him. And maybe Diallo, I suppose.
You got Kobe Mainu as well. Agate, he's a fantastic player. As I say, everywhere you look, Diallo,
though, is he?
Diallo. You take him too. So what I'm saying is there's fantastic players in that side. So to think of they're not a threat, they are individually. Those players can do something at any given day to change a game.
Well, you saw Diallo do it against Southampton, where he just completely turned the game on its head. They seemed pretty comfortable at 1-0, and then suddenly he scored a hat-trick out of nowhere. But, the only positive, I suppose, I don't know if you guys have seen, but in the last sort of half an hour or so, but Chelsea have lodged a bid for Garnacho, so he might not appear. I think it was £70 million or something ridiculous, again, which I think is about 50 million too much. I don't rate him. I know he scored against us 2 years ago, but I just don't think he's that kind of level of player. But hey, if Chelsea want to spend 70 million, who's going to tell them no? But that works in our favour. But another interesting stat, Manchester United have lost 6 of their last 9 Premier League matches. The Red Devils have not had a run of 7 losses in 10 games since 1988. So you've kind of got two ends of the whole Fulhamish spectrum here. We never win against Man United. So what was it? 18 Premier League games. We haven't won. Man United have never lost more than 6 games in a run of 10.
That is Fulhamish at both ends.
Do we start to see the pendulum swing? And who's the most unlucky team in this situation?
No, we've got this. We have got this. I think it's going to be a close game, though. I think Dave's right. What he said earlier, we have to score. I think we need to. Well, obviously everyone tries to score in the first half, but I think we actually really do need to, because when you're in Man United at the moment and your confidence is very shaky, it won't take much for them to be on the back foot again. They want to try and come at us and play on the front foot a bit, but as soon as we can crush them once with one goal, I think their heads will drop and they'll just be like, here we go again. We probably won't see that as much because they can hide it and they'll have to keep going. But I think mentally, confidence is massive, isn't it, in football? And we know that with Wilson at the moment, how much he's flying from all his goals that he's contributed recently. But what a different player he is. So I do think it will be a close game, but if we get the upper hand in the first half especially, then it's Fulham's day.
You feeling the same, Dave? You feeling the same positivity?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I do think that we're going to create chances against this Man United side. And I think that, given that we've just come off the back of a win that also included a clean sheet, I think will give our defence a lot of confidence too. So I think we're a confident side, and we kind of go into this game looking at it as an opportunity against kind of a very inconsistent Man United team. And as Mary said, if we can get ahead, I really think they'll crumble. I think if we can just get that first goal, it could be a really good day for us, evening for us.
Yeah, I forgot it's a Sunday
7
7 p.m, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that a thing this year? I don't think I've ever seen a Sunday 7 p.m. this
It's
season,
the most
let alone
weirdest
ever.
time.
Ridiculous.
It's like it's TV rights as well.
Mm.
Before I go predictions, then there's two things I want to tell you. Right, so Fulham have scored exactly 2 goals in each of their last 5 Premier League matches. Only once in the top flight history have they ever done that, and that was in 1966. But Man United have also gone 1-0 down in 8 of their last 9 Premier League matches since Almiron took over. So there's going to be goals, I feel. On paper, that says 2-1. I'll go Mary. How do you feel this game's going to go?
That was my prediction and is still my prediction. They are quite low scoring at the moment, Man United. Not that I want to start tempting fate, but I am going 2-1. I'd love to go 3-1, but I think 2-1 is where it's going to be at. I do think it will be close. But I just think as soon as we get the first one, we'll have the upper hand. And they are shaky at the back at the moment. So I think we can capitalise on that. Like you just said, the clean sheet last week is massive, especially after the West Ham game. So we've got, we know we're back in form with that. Well, hopefully. 2-1 from me, 2-1 to the mighty Black and White Army, and send Man United on their way. Not that they've got far to travel.
I was going to say, yeah. Dave, how are you feeling?
Well, I having watched all of our games this season, I think that sooner or later we're gonna beat a team well. We're gonna put a few goals past the team in a game, and I think it might be this weekend. Last week I went 3-0 against Leicester, and it ended up being 2-0. And today I was thinking 4-0 to Fulham, but I'm going to pull it back to 3-0. I think 3-0 is probably a more realistic score, so I'm going to go 3-0. And I think it's going to be a nice, comfortable evening, one for us to celebrate.
Do you know what? How ridiculous would that be? A 4-0 win against Manchester United. That would be next level. I think there's part of me which is this Fulham team, when they're in the mood, and similar to what we saw last season with the West Ham, Nottingham Forest, that if they get a goal early on, they do tend to sort of push on, and Man United are, like we talked about, their confidence. They are probably a team that could roll over, but that just seems too confident, doesn't it? Like you can see it. You know what? I'm going to go. I reckon 2-0 Fulham. I don't think Man United have enough about them to score. I think with their biggest threat being on the right-hand side of Diallo, I do think that I did have concerns with Robinson, dealing with a left-footed player on the right and cutting in, but he's pocketed Saka this year. He's done very well in those sort of types of players, so I do think that that's not too much of a threat, especially if just pace gets him out of trouble. So I think 2-0. But interestingly, across the board of the panel here, we all think that Fulham are going to get 3 points.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that is true. Right. Well, we are very privileged to be joined by Fulham transfer members. So we have Kieran and
Hello.
Hello, Kieran and Joe Gunning. How are we doing?
Good. Hello.
How
are you doing?
Welcome in.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to be on the pod.
Welcome, guys.
Very good.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as you can see, we're all very optimistic around sort of the Man United game. So we're all in very, very good mood tonight, which is, I don't
As you should
I
be.
don't want to say it's a rarity. I don't want to say it's a rarity. We're always in good mood in this pod, especially this season. But you guys, you do fantastic stuff on X, Blue Sky, and especially in our Discord with all the news that you do. But you know, me and Dave were talking about this. We thought you were one person who never slept, must have just had their phone going off every 2 seconds, going, "Oh, I've got to tweet this. I've got to keep everyone up to date." But you're a team. I mean, Kieran, we'll come to you first. So, how did you come about to be a Fulham fan, and also how did you come about to be included in sort of Fulham fan news?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us on. Really appreciate it. And to start off with, I mean, I started becoming a Fulham fan back when I started going to Fulham games with my dad. How most fans begin. My dad just took me to Craven Cottage, a stadium tour. Then we beat West Brom 3-0, which was quite nice. And then from then on, just followed Fulham. Always been the one different club that all my friends support. Out of all my friends, I should say. And then just started been following Fulham like that, to be honest. And then in terms of Fulham transfer as such, I mean, we're all one big team. So it's there's 4 of us in total. So it's not just one person behind the screen who you might think is just tapping away. And all sorts. So and obviously me and Joe, we share a passion for like journalism and that sort of stuff. So it's obviously great getting on board with Fulham transfer because we talk to journalists all the time. We're always getting it sort of like what's going on behind the scenes. So it's always good to have that like inner knowledge, which is great. And then obviously report it to you guys as in the best way possible with keeping it as accurate and up to date as possible. So it's been brilliant to be part of.
And what a fantastic job you guys do. I mean, I've never seen one. I think it's probably the Fulham account that tweets the most, if I'm honest, and probably the one that grew the most, if anything. Like 1 minute it was like 2,000, 3,000, and to get around sort of 8,000 followers in a Fulham community is fantastic. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. So keep that going, because the amount of times that you keep us updated, and I'm always updating my dad as well, and he's just like, "How do you get all this stuff?" And I'm like, "I know a guy," but apparently I know 4 guys. So there you go.
Yeah.
Joe, we're going to come to you, mate. I mean, how did you get included in sort of in Fulham and Fulham fan news and that?
Yeah, I was dragged down a dark path by my dad as well.
Love it.
A long road of misery. That's his gift to me. No, but season ticket holder. And then we moved abroad, so I kind of fell out of it for a little bit, and then got really back into it, and now it is my whole life, basically, Fulham. As sad as that is to say, I dedicate, I'd say, pretty much every weekend to going around the country, supporting, seeing us letting disappointing goals. And I came to be a part of Fulham Fan News. It was actually me and Kieran had done a couple of things before, and Kieran was the one who actually, I think maybe I reached out and I saw that he was doing a podcast, and I said, "Oh, do you mind if I get involved?" And the guys were very happy to let me get involved, and it's been smooth sailing ever since, hasn't it, Kieran?
Absolutely. Always provide the jokes, the insight, and the Carlos Vinicius. What would you call it, Joe?
Carlos Vinicius, the love.
The love and adoration for that one man who sits on the bench receiving his paycheck and not doing much.
There's still
Never forget Chelsea at home. Never forget.
Yeah. Build the statue. No, it's fantastic though. I mean, so I'm guessing because you're following Fulham around the country now, you've moved back to the UK, I'm guessing. So I was going to say, if you're really committed, if you're flying back in every weekend. I'm at uni in Cardiff at the moment, so it is still a bit of a trek, but it's all right. I feel like I get to the northern games a bit easier from here than I would from London. It's a shame because if we were in the, obviously I don't want us to be in the Championship. A shame.
There are so many like away days around this area that I could have done in like Cardiff, Swansea, Bristol. But obviously we're on to better things now. We're on to brighter days.
Yeah, those kind of games, they're a thing of the past. They're FA Cup third rounds, if at most.
Yeah.
They're a distant memory. But no, I mean that's really cool. I mean, everyone has to follow you guys. I'm sure everyone already does, but hey, get on to Fulham Fan News because they're fantastic. Fulham Transfer, I believe.
Well,
But
also there's the transfer window
there you
coming
go.
up, and that's time to shine, boys, isn't it? You've got to keep people updated throughout the day.
Transfer window is
Yeah.
when you really should be following Fulham Fan News. It's the place to be.
Not early on in the window though. We always do our business like
Oh
the
yeah,
last week.
you
so-
wait.
Yeah.
Right, that's where the real
But-
fun is. Get the popcorn
There
out.
you go, and then that's the segue, isn't it? We're in the final week of the window, aren't we? I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
But
And absolutely nothing is happening.
Oh,
Who would have seen? Who would have predicted this?
I mean, this is kind of a question, and whether you guys have the answer. I mean, I would not hold it against you if you didn't. But I think at the beginning of the window, there was a lot of talk about, a striker if it came up. There was a lot of talk about an attacker. Marco talked about an attacker, potentially a winger, maybe a striker. But that seems to have really fizzled out, and we've suddenly gone right back. I mean, was there anything that came up that sort of said, we're okay with our strikers, or is it now the start in the hint of Willian turning up in London out of nowhere? Is that now a reason why that's cooled down?
Kieran, if you want to, I know that you're an avid fan of this Willian.
Oh yeah, big fan of
Guys,
Willian.
you can take
I
this
have
one.
seen that he's in London. I would love for him to return because we've seen him in Fulham colours already, and he's been a revelation under Marco Silva, and I would absolutely take him back for, even if it's a 6-month contract, short term, get us into that European spot, and then see what happens. I think he's the sort of attacker that can definitely make things happen. And obviously at the moment we're lacking a winger quite a bit because obviously Nelson's been injured, and we're lacking output from other areas. But I think it would be great if Willian comes back. I mean, he's in London, so who knows? But in generally, with what you were mentioning about the striker situation, I think Marco will only buy players if he knows he can get quality. And I think if he knows he can back Muniz and Rao to do the job for the rest of the season, albeit with differing runs of form, like we can hope Muniz has another March-April purple patch like he did last season, or Raul Jimenez keeps up his consistent run of form, then that's sort of hopeful for us. I think the focus has sort of turned to a right back since Kenny Tete's gone out injured. So I think the main priority that we're looking at is a right back, and I think we will see a right back come in before the end of the window. But it's just where that right back will come from. We've been linked to various players. I'm sure we'll touch on in a little bit, but I think that's sort of where the striker situation has spiraled out. But in elsewhere of attackers, Willian would definitely take him back.
Yeah, I was just going to add on the striker situation. I think what I anticipate at least is we definitely won't be getting one in January, just because obviously to sign a player in January you need to pay a lot more, and I don't think that's something we want to do. I wouldn't be surprised if we find ourselves hunting in the bargain section again for a striker, when really it is something that we should be throwing a lot of money at. It is, everyone knows it's hard to get a good striker, and we were blessed for years to have, I say his name, Mitrovic, leading our team. But I'd be looking at the ones that I think I could see us going for. Is one in particular is Calvert-Lewin. His contract's up at the end of this year. He's actually not as old as you'd think, and I could see us going for a little bargain. I know something was mentioned in the summer window to do with us having a look at Calvert-Lewin. There was a little thing that went on, but nothing materialised. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was something we went back into. But to be honest, I'm hopeful that we have bigger aspirations. I think we should. I think we need to be replacing Mitrovic with someone that is better than he was, because we are better than we were then. So I want our whole team to be better, and I don't personally think that Calvert-Lewin is the solution to that problem.
Yeah, bargain bucket for sure. I mean, Dave, hearing that, does that strike you with a lot of confidence?
Well, look, Marco's worked with him before, so but I think you're right. I think it doesn't particularly excite because we kind of know what Calvert-Lewin's all about, and he's not really done the business in the last couple of seasons. But it's interesting, as Skibby said, that, before the window, we obviously lost Jay Stansfield at the end of last window, right? Which wasn't really planned until we got such a great offer. And I guess everyone was kind of thinking, well, we'll replace there, we'll replace in that position. We'll let Vinny go back out, let Vinny leave. We'll also let Goddo go back out on loan, thus freeing up the space for this new player. But really what Marco's been kind of saying in press conferences is kind of contradictory to that. He's kind of not so much talking about a winger anymore. So it's all been a little bit strange. It's kind of mixed messaging. Yeah, it's been quite interesting to see how this window's developed. And as you say, now looks as though the main targets was predominantly right back. I'm sure we'll talk about that after the guys you guys have been reporting on Emerson Royale, and then after last night, it looks as though he's cropped for a couple of months. So be interested to see your guys' thoughts on who Fulham might target next there. And also a question that's just come up in our comments from Colin Bugler is this rumours about Adama Traore and Besiktas. How strong are they? Are they credible? What's your thoughts?
I think right back wise, it was looking like we were going to make kind of a concrete offer for Emerson Royale. It looked like we were going to get the ball moving, but then obviously this injury setback. My first thought was he is definitely faking this injury, because it looked like he was kind of being forced out by AC Milan. So I thought he does not want to come over. But I was actually, I saw a lot of Fulham fans not happy with that. Me personally, I don't think he's that bad. I know that there was the whole chant about he can't defend, he can't attack, but I actually saw quite good spells in him. And he's a player that I think would fit our system well, the way that we kind of utilize that right side of our pitch. I think that he would fit well. I think the player that it does look like we're moving on to is the Coventry right back, Milan Van Uwijk, I think you pronounce his name. I might have butchered that. It does look like we're kind of showing pretty concrete interest in him. His style of play also beautifully fits our system. He's kind of like an Anthony Robinson if he was a right back. Not to give, I mean, that's an outstanding review to give any player. So I'm not saying he's that good, but that's the kind of style that he is. So I think I would be surprised if, with the kind of level of interest we're showing in the right back position, if we don't acquire a right back by the end of the window.
I'm just going to add, so that's So Craven exclusive. Joe Gunning says that Milan Van Uwijk is the best right back in the world. Fair enough.
Controversial take there.
And yourself, Kieran, if you had any views on that, those questions.
I think Van Uwijk is, as Joe said, is a good fit. I think he, as Joe rightfully said, shares the same qualities as Jeddy, can get up and down that right flank quite well. I think it would be quite a good fit. Another name I've seen floating around is Kyle Walker-Peters from Southampton. Obviously, they're not doing great down the bottom of the table at the moment. So whether he wants to leave now, whether he waits until the summer, could see some movement there. I've heard a fee of something around, we could even get him for like something like 5 million, 5-10 million or something.
This
so
window or in the summer?
Pardon?
Is that this window or in the summer?
It could potentially this window, if not maybe even the summer.
I think he's out of contract, isn't he?
Is he?
I see.
Oh, wow.
I think that's why it's such a cheap price.
I was going to say, he starts for Southampton, doesn't he?
He does. He's a great player. He's one of the best players on the pitch, like in most games.
Southampton, I mean, most of the time you say you don't want to sell your players when you're in a relegation battle, but I actually don't think Southampton are in a relegation battle. There's not much of a battle going on, is there?
Yeah.
Whether they just want to cash in and start preparing for next season already, like time will tell. But I'd be surprised if they do part with a player that's kind of played for them for so long, and I'd be surprised if he kind of wanted to leave the club in that way as well. So I think at the moment, I'd say the Cov right back. I can't say I've ever actually sat down and watched him play. So I'll be needing to do my proper homework soon. But I think if we are holding a proper interest in him and Marco's kind of singled him out, then I think whoever we sign's the right option. I've kind of had this mentality ever since we originally signed Willian, and there was that whole utter throwing the toys out the pram about how we'd signed him. And it obviously turned out to be fantastic. So I take every rumour with a pinch of salt nowadays. I think that's the best way to approach it. I just remembered the Adama question as well. I would be personally very surprised if we let him go, just because he is in Marco's plans. He's a player that I think personally is surplus to requirements if we can get another winger in. Look, I really, really want to see Adama do well. He's so quick and so strong, and we know that, but it's just that lack of conviction and lack of any real threat, to me, it isn't a player that's good enough for where we want to be. But I don't think we see him go this window, just because Marco's kind of very firm about that, and will say he's only going to go if we get someone in, and if we do, then I'm happy with that.
So that one's unlikely, but I've just seen before we've gone on there that the Andreas saga has started again, because there's rumours that you guys have reported that Palmeiras are going to come back in with another bid. What can you guys give us any update on that situation?
I personally don't think he's going to leave. As Joe's just said, Marco's quite big on his players in his system. And I think Andreas Pereira, as we've seen since the whole malarkey with his comments, or whether he made comments or not, but a couple months ago, obviously the fact kicked up a bit of a fuss in the fan base, but then obviously it turned out those comments weren't true, and he did actually want to still be at Fulham. And since then he's worn the captain's armband on one occasion as well. So I think he fits Marco's system, and I think because he's such a crucial player in the system, it seems silly to let someone like that go in the January window. If he's to leave, I'd say in the summer, with the hope that we would replace him, obviously. So I think it'd be silly to see any of our first team players leave in January, considering the system Marco wants to play and will play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I had a question on the left hand side, actually. So we've obviously we need a bit of right back cover, but are we looking at the left back at all, or do we just think we've got Cess, we've got Bassi that could play there, or do you think we'll look for any left back cover? I mean, hopefully Robinson will never be out.
Yeah. I think at the minute we've not heard anything about left backs, unless I'm missing something, Kieran, unless I'm forgetting something.
Ballatore on a free, boys.
Obviously, I
saw this. Ballatore got released. I personally, I'd take him back. I really, really liked what I saw whenever he did get short cameos for us. But no, I think we're happy with Cess as the left back cover. I think Marco's mentioned in press conferences that Cess is a player who really wants to start and is pushing to start in training, but he's just obviously so unlucky that our best two players in Robinson and Iwobi are holding up those positions, because you can't, however well you do play, you can't really kind of dislodge that just because of the system, and that's kind of what our football revolves around. But I think if Robinson was, like you say, God forbid, to get injured, I think Sessegnon would be the one to step in. So I think we're probably going to leave the left-hand side for this window, especially with how shrewd and how much we like to not spend money and not bring in players. I'll be surprised if we are bringing in players that we don't absolutely need.
And it's interesting being on sort of focusing on the outs. We glance across Pereira and Adama. Are there any other outs that you see around Fulham potentially this window, even if it's just out on loan, potentially Godot, for example? I
think Marco actually wants to keep Godot. There was championship offers on the table for him to go out on loan there, which were rejected because Marco does want to keep him in and around the squad. Apparently Marco Silva's been so impressed with Josh King and Marshall Godot in training and how they kind of act in matches. So he does want to keep them around the first team and challenging to break into the team. I think another player to look at in terms of outgoings is Carlos Vinicius. Obviously, there was a little bit of noise at the beginning of the window, but that's kind of quieted down now, and it seems like he's happy to stay at Fulham. He's not like pushing for an exit at all. he's kind of happy to just pick up a wage. And I was going to say, is obviously not in the plans, but we did get that short little cameo against Southampton, which was kind of like, when we saw him come on, it was like, oh my gosh, we really are in the mud now.
Started versus Man United and see what happens.
Yeah, just start him up top. But
I mean, he almost scored, didn't he? He was just dancing around defenders and then scuffed his shot to.
I don't know what it was, but it was something. It was towards the goal.
See, I've obviously we've mentioned it. I've got a bit of an affinity with Carlos Vinicius. I actually got a Carlos Vinicius Fulham top as well. I must be the only Fulham fan in the world.
Did you lose a bet or something?
And it was before the Muniz season. I was choosing between. I was like, do I get Muniz or Vinicius? Because I wanted to get it as a bit of a laugh, and I chose totally the wrong player. That was when Vinicius was actually above Muniz in the pecking order. I still, to be honest, this is probably my worst opinion. I still think that he could potentially offer something. I mean, obviously Marco totally disagrees. I don't know how he is in training. But I'd say in terms of outs, he's the only one. I agree with Kieran that I don't see Andreas leaving. I think not only what he brings to the table as a player, I think it's his personality that he brings. He's a massive, massive part of that changing room. Like, if you kind of look at group dynamics in our squad, he kind of slots into like every group in a way. You see him kind of floating around. So I think, and he is one of the team leaders as well, and having any team leader leave, whether it was Kearney retiring or if Harrison Reed left, is gonna inevitably leave a bit of a dent in the squad. So I think having him leave right in the middle of the season would definitely not be a good idea, like regardless of how he's playing. And me personally, I actually I'm not on the whole Andreas hate bandwagon. I think I quite like Andreas. I think he always kind of gives his all. I put out a tweet about it that one thing you can't question about Andreas is that he'll always give his all. You never question his press or his dedication. And lately he's been trying to kind of ramp up the Fulham fans. He's put tweets out and stuff on his Instagram story. You know, he took responsibility for that bad pass against West Ham. So I think people need to, step back, relax with Andreas, let the man play his football, a bit less pressure, and maybe the performance. One thing, I'll tell you one little issue I do have, though, this season especially, is not to go on a whole run, because this is something I could go on about for ages, but it is our corners. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I thought you were going to say stop dicking about your hair.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I have no idea what has happened with our considering how good we were obviously we don't have Mitrovic anymore, but it's the deliveries that are awful. Like I said, this is we've had a lot of bad things this season, and that is the one for me personally that has annoyed me the most. Set pieces in general, like that free kick the other day where Wilson and Andreas both lined up against it. But yeah, I'll stop because it's something I'm passionate about. Yeah. Our corners.
Looks like we need to sign a new set piece coach in January.
Apparently we don't have a proper set piece. Our set piece coach is one of the other coaches, just kind of does it on the side.
It's not Stuart Gray, is it? I thought it was Stuart Gray.
No, it's not Stuart Gray anymore. There's a guy, because I researched when I was having a huff and puff about this the other day. I thought, who do I have to write a strong-worded letter to? And apparently we don't have like an official set piece coach, but we have one of the coaches who steps in and does it. But I think, half of the Premier League sides have an official set piece coach. I mean, everyone looks at Arsenal with the whole mural and all of that nonsense. But
let's take whoever's at Arsenal. I'd love that.
But yeah,
you don't want it to become your full identity, though. That's the only problem.
Yeah,
that's the trap that Arsenal have fallen into.
I'd love to do a transfer announcement on Fulham Fan News that we've signed a set piece coach. That would be if I had to pick a bit of business, right back or set piece coach. I don't know.
Fantastic. And we do have one comment actually. Harrison Reed. So is he an outgoing potentially, or is he happy to be? I think he's got to be fifth, sixth in line now. I think he's falling behind King, isn't he?
I don't know anything on him, but I would imagine probably not an outgoing, because obviously we've had a pretty bad injury record this season, especially in that midfield area where we've had Berger out for a long time, so we've had to have Pereira fill that other role in the midfield. So I can't see Reed leaving. Obviously, he's been unfortunate with injury as well. But I think if he were to leave, it would be in the summer. But I can't see him leaving in January, personally.
Fair enough. Can I ask a question about goalkeepers? So we obviously released Rodak in the summer transfer window, and Bender was promoted to number 2. And this is not, nothing against Bender. He's actually done okay in the cup games, but this is a guy that's got very little experience of playing at the top level. It feels like we're maybe a player light there, some with a bit more experience, and God forbid Leno ever got injured. And I just wondered, is there any rumours at all about potentially recruiting a goalkeeper to, maybe push Leno, or even just to cover him and Bender to give that extra bit of competition in that area?
Yeah, I think the goalkeeper position is for me, I agree, it's a definite gap. I was really surprised when in summer we didn't sign like a proper number 2. What I'd personally like to do is not go out and sign a number 2. I'd like to go out and sign someone who will push Leno. I think you always need competition in a squad. And although Rodak was never like real competition for Leno, I think Bender doesn't stand a chance of displacing Leno. I think Leno could put in 2 absolute stinkers and we still wouldn't see Bender come in. But weirdly enough, I've heard absolutely nothing in terms of goalkeepers. And it is something which for me is the position on the pitch that we are most lacking a kind of rotation option of. So I think Bender is, not to slander Bender here, but I think he is not good enough. Obviously, for me, what stands out the most was the penalty shootout. And obviously, you don't judge a keeper based on how good they are at saving penalties. But it was just the way that he stood like inside of his goal for so many of them. And I think we need to go out and sign one. I'd be surprised if we do this window. I think we'll kind of know way in advance what we sign. I mean, who knows? We do love a deadline day out of nowhere, random signing, but I can't see it happening unless like Leno gets a little issue in the upcomings.
I like to see goalkeeper rumours as like gold dust. Like they're very rare to appear, and then when they do appear, it's sort of you see a rumour, and the next day they've signed as your player. So I really haven't seen much on goalkeepers at all.
Okay,
awesome. I think that's kind of my questions answered. I mean, Mary, Dave, anything further from you guys?
No, only thinking like in with Nelson. Obviously looking forward to when he's back properly. I know you said he's in training, but he's obviously on loan. Do you think we'll sign him? I'd like to hope that we do, but where's your thoughts with that?
Yeah, I was really hoping personally that we would use his injury to our advantage and try and strike up a deal for him in January, because I think he is really, really good. I think he's like the perfect winger that we need. He's what we had in Willian, but younger in the way that he's so direct. He's so like willing to take on his man. And I think Iwobi gives us something totally different than what Reece Nelson gives us and our other wingers give us. And I think he is a player who would suit our system so well. And I think personally, my like post or rest of season prediction is that when he does come back, he's going to be fantastic. I think he was kind of really like slowly building up, getting better and better, and then had that really unfortunate setback. So I was really hoping that we'd go right now, while there's not been that much attention on how good he has been. Let's try and get a deal struck up. But it doesn't look like anything's happened so far. I think it will depend on how instrumental he is in the rest of our season. I think if he is really good, I can't see Marco wanting to lose him. Who knows? Arsenal might demand a ridiculous price. We've had it in the past where the first one that springs to mind is Nico Williams, where we would have liked to keep Nico Williams on, but Liverpool demanded like 25-30 million for him, and he's just realistically, which Forest paid, and he was good, and we would have all liked to keep him. But I think if if the fee is too demanding, which a lot of the big six clubs like to do, drive high fees for their players, especially like a young English talent like Reece Nelson. I think it will depend on the fee and how well he does for the rest of the season. So it's one to keep an eye on, definitely.
Yeah, hopefully we keep him.
Yeah, I think just his football, he's so nice to watch, so like satisfying, so skillful. Like,
and he's got that partnership with Smith Rowe, isn't he, as well?
Yeah,
like we start to see that come into play.
It is good. It is good.
The only thing I'd like him to improve on is just his finishing. That's the one area I think we need to work on. The end product, yeah. Crossing is okay. He's created a few chances for us, but in front of goal, he's got his head down. He doesn't look up. It's just that's an area of his game I think Marco can work with him on. And if he can get that right, then wow, what a player he would be.
And winger with attacking output is sort of what we need to look at, because Reece Nelson's sort of got that, as you say, needs to improve his finishing. But with Adama, he's faultless in elsewhere. He's got the pace, he's got the strength, he's got the ability, but his finishing is just what's lacking. And I think if we can get a winger which has some sort of attacking output, then I think that would really boost us to get higher in the table.
Absolutely. Last question from me then, I think, is to Kieran first. I guess everyone that we've been linked with, who is your number one? I would love to see you in a Fulham shirt, and I hope it happens.
Oh, are we talking like just this window or just in general?
In general.
Oh, who have we been linked with? We've been linked with some pretty big names. I'll have to do the obvious one. Paul Pogba. We've all seen that one, haven't we? We've all seen Paul Pogba. That. We've seen Andreas Pereira comment on that Instagram post, tagging him in, saying "Come to Fulham" with the eyes and whatever. I think it's ridiculous to say Paul Pogba to Fulham. He's been everywhere. He's been a big name. Obviously, he's had his issues or whatnot. But I think it'd be one of those Marco Silva signings where a player who's nearing the end of his career, if that, is coming to Fulham and is ripping it up again, just like Willian did. And I think he could do a proper good job. Albeit I think his wage demands would be through the roof. But I think it's unrealistic. But you've got to say, Paul Pogba in a Fulham shirt, what it's meant to be.
It just looks right, doesn't it?
It just looks right. I think it's either got to be Paul Pogba or Dwight Gale just to push the boat out.
Same question to you, Joe.
Yeah, I agree, Pogba. I think a Paul Pogba shirt would look lovely in my wardrobe next to my Carlos Vinicius one. But I'll go with someone different. I'll go for the player that we were kind of linked to in Douglas Luiz. I would have absolutely loved if we'd signed him. I think he is so good. That would have been fantastic. He would have suited our system so well, and it would have been such like a statement signing if we managed to get him. But I think it was him actually that kind of pushed aside. There was us and Forrest that were interested. I think he wasn't too impressed that those were his suitors. But yeah, he's one that I would have quite liked.
Brilliant. Well, we've just had a comment from Colm saying, "Is Jason Kuma still playing?" Because that was every win.
We'll get him.
Was like the 2000s.
We'll get him. Don't worry.
Dwight Gale, that was. Yeah. I mean, maybe he's a set piece coach now. What an announcement that would be.
That is actually what I would have. That is what would be top of mind.
Dwight Gale as a set piece coach. It's just meant to be.
One of them.
We should go Nick
surely.
Piece coach. That would be quite fun.
That would be funny. And then you watch, we still wouldn't be able to hit the right spots because of Pereira. There you go.
No.
I mean, Joe, Kieran, I have to say thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been really insightful and just, again, I still can't believe it. The faces behind the accounts that we just assumed was one man. But no, thank you very much for your time. And Kieran, plug away, my friend. I'm sure everyone knows you already.
Well, thanks for having us. It's been great talking to you guys. Obviously, as I'm sure you know, the Twitter handle is @FulhamTransfer. If you don't already follow it, which you should obviously be following it because most people follow it. I think it's How many followers are we creeping up on now, Joe?
I've got no idea.
I think I think it's nearly like
It's nearly 9, isn't it?
17k,
16.
something like that. So
No.
it's getting pretty massive, which is quite wild. But we haven't overtaken Fulhamish podcast just
Bit
yet.
like Fulham, then we're massive.
16,700.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
We've got a little bit to do to catch up. We'll overtake Fulhamish, but they're good in their own way as well. So yeah, drop us a follow, and then we're Instagram as well. We've one of our team keeps the Instagram sort of running and rolling over. So it's at Fulham Transfer on there as well. So, and yeah, thanks for having us on, and hopefully we can make some good signings.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we'll obviously get you back on towards at the end of the window. We could potentially do a regroup of all the signings that we made, or we just talk about anything else, because at the moment it doesn't like we're going to make any. But no, absolutely. And Joe, thank you very much as well for coming on. If you've got anything to plug, feel free to shout it all out.
Yeah, I think Kieran covered most of it. Oh, you could if anyone fancies going over to TikTok. Following, I've got a little Fulham TikTok, FFC
I
Gunning.
thought it was you.
Yeah.
I had an inkling. I was like, I swear there's only one Fulham TikToker I know, and I was like, I swear it's him.
There's not been any uploads as of late, but I'm planning on getting back into it. I keep, whenever I go to games, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do like a little like photo vlog, like just take photos, and it gets to like 2 pints in the concourse, and I absolutely forget. And it's every time I forget. So I've just got loads of photos of me on the way to games and stuff like that, and just absolutely nothing after. So I think I'm gonna. I say the next one I'll remember, but that's very tongue in cheek.
No, thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for coming on, guys, and we'll catch you soon.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming.
See you guys.
Fulham transfer, everyone. I mean, I'm still like speechless. I know we keep talking about it, but there's a team. It's
There's
not
a
just
team
one
Behind
guy.
the name.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I had this vision of
I'm a
this
little bit
guy,
disappointed.
like toothpicks in his eyes, trying to stay up on the Red Bulls everywhere and McDonald's and all this. That was my vision. And now that they're just, they're two very normal, lovely guys, and very disappointed. But no, they were great. It was great to have them on. Yeah.
Well, I hope that fills our need that we might get some signings, if not to replace the outs that may be coming. But hey ho, we shall see. But that brings us to the end of the first ever After Dark. I mean, Dave, how do you feel?
I feel great. It's nice to have a beer. I can't have a beer when you're doing podcasts at the midday, whatever we do.
I was exactly the same. I was like, you
This is
can
the thing. Well, you could.
Somewhere.
You could, of course.
5 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yes,
Do
that's
that
true.
in a coffee mug.
Yeah. Well, this is
I
true.
mean, that's where you start to have a problem, right? When you've started to sneak it into coffee mugs.
It's very hard to kind of go back into work after you've done that for an hour or so. So yeah, it's it's been nice to try a new slot. I think we've had a fair number of people watching, which has been really great. So thank you for your support. It's been great, to see the Fulham Fan News guys join us, and to talk about Man United. And as I said, I'm very confident about the weekend. So
We are indeed.
Yeah.
And I think we'll have to just bring up one comment. I didn't want to do it when the Fulham transfer guys were on, but Jay King, who I immediately think is Josh King, no one can tell me otherwise, has said,
Josh King is on the pod.
Hi, all, great to see Mary in. Fulham FC ladies legend.
Oh,
so
thanks so much.
But
Wow.
so that was Josh King. I mean, Josh King
Yeah.
knows you, Mary.
King. Thank you. Thank you, Jay King. Thank you.
But no, I mean, Mary, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I know your schedule is very hard to get into nowadays, but thank you very much for
it was
joining
so
us
good.
at a new slot.
After Dark. I'm here for it. I need to get a beer next time.
Absolutely.
I'll get the Coronas out the fridge, or maybe just
That's
one. But yeah, no, it was good fun. It's good to have the transfer updates as well, or the no updates. But well, there was updates, but no signings maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll start scoring corners in like February, March time,
Yeah.
and be a set piece new team. But yeah, no, it's been good fun. Thanks so much for having me. I think we're going to go on and win 2-1, or I'm happy with the 4-0 that you said. Either or 6-0. You never know. We're due one of them soon.
That's true.
That's it. We haven't. I mean,
and I haven't even had a beer, and I'm here for the 6-0.
Absolutely. Well, we will find out on Sunday, and be sure to look out for I think the That's So Craving Australian crew will be back for the review, which I believe will be Monday. So be sure to check in for that, and give a lot of love to the Berenzis. It's all because of them that we were able to do this tonight. So big up the Berenzis. But guys, thank you very much for joining us on the live stream. Thank you very much for listening. If you're listening on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, we will be back. This is just one of many, I believe. So the Thursday 8 p.m. slot will hopefully be something that we do more of. And yeah, we're all very optimistic for Manchester United. So there's nothing else for me to say but come on, you Whites.
You Whites.